This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling product, which is the Vitamin E ointment. It helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Judith Mancini Today. Thank you so much for tuning in to us. Before I start our show today on midlife crises in between the ages of 50 and 80, I want to just do a little news wrap-up of what's happening in the United States, because we have under 3 weeks left until the midterm elections, and we have been having some people already voting by absentee, mail-in, drop box, everything you can conceive of, it seems like these days. But the actual voting in person, which is what you should be doing, is not occurring for another, I believe, 18 days. So I just want to tell you that you should vote for the people who will support the Constitution and your freedoms, because that's what America is all about. But I'm not going to tell you who to vote. That's up to you. That's part of our freedom in this country. But I do want to talk about a couple of the main problems that are facing Americans today. And one of them is gas prices. Yesterday, our president suggested that the price per barrel should be $70. And I think it's well over 90 now. It's 94 or something like that, but we can't even get any. We have to keep dipping into our strategic reserve, which is for emergencies. Emergencies mean disastrous things like war, and we have Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia all ready to pounce on us to take away our freedoms and gain access to our natural resources and food supplies and supply chain. So dipping into the strategic reserve is not a smart idea. And trying to muscle your way into Saudi Arabia, who used to be our allies and sold us oil, is not working out too well, even with fist bumps. Well, that's all I want to say about that. We should open the pipelines, in my opinions, finish the pipeline, open the others, and go back to using some of our natural resources. You know, everything has to have some of the minerals that we're rich in. You can't buy a battery in the United States now, and you can't buy any chips. That's why we are slow in getting new cars, because we can't get the chips to run all the computers that are in them. And people are having a hard time replacing batteries in their car if they go dead. There's a shortage of them, just like there's a shortage of baby formula. Some of these things need to be fixed, and they need to be fixed immediately before babies start dying and before people start freezing in their homes with the winter coming up. We already have a natural disaster down in Florida and all over there in the Keys and some in South Carolina. And FEMA is doing an excellent job of getting in there. Governor DeSantis is doing an excellent job of helping with his people. So let's think about this before we're tapping into our strategic reserve. The other thing I want to talk about is there was a bill signed this week, and I don't have all the details of it. Our president signed a bill wherein they are doing more studies of how to put chips in your body of some sort, some device. I don't know if it's called a chip or what. As I say, I need to study this a little more. And I'm asking you all out there to look it up and study it also, because what it will do is give government access to all of your health, where you travel to, and all sorts of unlikely things that we consider freedoms, but may be taken away from us. So please look up the bills that he signed yesterday or the day before. And I will study that before our next show and let you know what's going on. And please beware, mothers out there and grandparents out there. I don't know if you realize this, but they're pushing again for vaccinations. They're always going to be coming out for vaccinations. Who profits from those? Just think about that and why they want it. Just like we were supposed to take a flu shot every year. But what I'm really concerned about are the young people taking the vaccinations, and they have a new one out for children 11 years old and younger that they just crammed right through. I'm in fear that they'll try to tell this to the schools, and some of the schools will say, okay, well, this is mandatory. You can't go to school again, and you'll be locked down. But more than that, these do not even have clinical trials behind these new vaccinations. And we already are having deaths, some suicides of teenagers that have taken this vaccine, and some deaths, particularly among young boys, where their hearts are affected. So there's many side effects of these vaccinations, and I will go into that at a later date also. But please beware, study, read some of these other things. They're trying to shut up a lot of doctors, and there's even a bill out that is trying to take the license away from any doctor that disagrees with these vaccinations. That's how powerful the pharmaceutical companies are in this country. And where do we get a bunch of this stuff? We get it from China. Well, I have a problem here. Well, I was just told that nobody can hear me over our internet waves. So just let me send a message in a tin can over to my engineer. It's on my end, certainly not his. Says, okay, all right. So I need to see if perhaps it's his. He is like my backup over here. And I don't know why he can't hear me. Let's try to find out. Okay, so sorry about this interruption. Well, we're going to continue, and we'll see if he comes back in here and tells me that he can't be heard. I've been having nothing but problems with Spectrum and what's going on. So actually, we'll continue. I don't want you to be giving these vaccines to children without any clinical trials or anything. I think that's where I left off. So let us do this. Let us now dip into a midlife crisis, which was coined, that phrase was coined in 1965, the year I graduated from high school. And it usually affects people from 45 to 64 years old. At least that's what they thought when they began studying this. And it seems to be that what they were trying to describe is maybe you've been working for many years since you got out of high school or college, and suddenly you're getting close to retirement age, you're viewing your own mortality, you're becoming empty nesters if you're married and have children. Men seem to have a problem with virility and thinking they need to go out and chase a little skirt that could produce more children with them. And sometimes women get the idea. They mostly have had, back in 1965, problems with being an empty nester. They still weren't in the workforce as much as they are today. A lot of them didn't go to college, but here I am. I only had a couple of years of college, and I was a highly successful publisher. So I'm not sold on the fact you need to go to college or university, but this is what he was describing and what people thought was happening. And they started studying it, and they didn't know what to do. Well, now we're living longer. So life extension has changed the demographics a little bit from early 45. Many people are working longer. Many people are even having children at a later age, finding their mate at a later age, or starting a new career. It used to be that people would start working and they would work for one company for years and years and years. And this was happening mostly in the middle of the country, the flyover states, and where they had jobs for till death do us part. And they'd get a gold watch or a silver watch, whatever was in fashion at the time, and that would be the end. Now we are more fortunate. We have pension plans. Well, they might be going down today. So watch those too, because we are in a recession, whether they're officially saying it or not. But what is happening is baby boomers now are having a midlife crisis when they are in their 50s all the way up to their 80s, because they're still vibrant and they want to still be engaged and engaging, and they're not sure what to do. So what we want to talk about today is what I think is not the midlife crisis, but it's a time to re-explore your life, reinvent your life. What we were talking about last week, reassessing your life and finding something to do. So what I've done for you is kind of put together a little bit of what people do in their period between the 50s and the 80s or the 90s. And it's quite interesting. There's a lot of people who don't want to retire at all, and they want to keep working. You can see that in people even that have tons of money. They still are staying engaged in their businesses, or they're starting new businesses, or they're doing a lot of charity work, or they sit on other people's boards and they're consultants and they give lots of advice. But what about those people who have not been in the upper management of the companies that they've been working for, or the stay-at-home mother who now has time on her hands because the last one went off to college or went off for their first job, and she finds all sorts of time on her hands? Or even the lovely lady who may be divorced and has never remarried, or maybe it's the single woman or the single man who's never remarried, and now suddenly they don't have what they were doing in their prior life when they were young. They don't have the companionship. The girlfriends have fallen by the wayside. I'm not speaking romantically now. I'm speaking of your besties and what to do about this. So a lot of people don't want to retire. And I was racking my brain and doing some research and thinking, well, what could you do if you wanted to have even a little side hustle to give you a little more spending money? Because goodness knows, with this inflation going on, a lot of older people are on fixed incomes, and some are well off, and some are being able to travel and do all sorts of fun things. But for those who can't, are not in great shape, or maybe they lost all of their 401k, maybe they haven't had a high paying job forever, and that savings they had is now gone. There are things that you can do. So put your thinking cap on and think about side hustles or kind of jobs that you could go get and apply for. And by the way, the most important thing when you're retiring is to have a smartphone or to have a laptop computer. And you can get them at pretty decent prices now. And it's worth investing in because that will be your connection to the world. Believe me, it's a good thing. If you have an accident, you've got that phone in your hand. 911 is at the touch of a finger, all sorts of things. So, what about finding a new interest in your life? I just want to put my glasses on because I've made lots of notes here and I have to be able to see them. So, now that you are retired, there's all different kinds of ways and time that you can work. The first one, of course, is part-time. And we're all familiar with what part-time is. You can go get a job almost anywhere. Excuse me. You can go get a job almost anywhere part-time these days because I think a lot of small businesses that have insurance and all, they don't pay benefits to part-time, and they save themselves a lot of money in this time of economic upheaval. So you can get a job part-time. You could get a job as a waitress or a waiter or a busboy. Anything in a restaurant part-time these days. You could get a full-time job there too, because there are businesses that would like to hire people and they can't find enough of those people that would take a lower wage. And most small businesses have compensated for that now and raised their wages. My goodness, I will confess, I sometimes like fast food because I'm so busy, I don't like to cook. So we go to In-N-Out Burger, and sometimes I have to go have a Big Mac, I confess. And I've noticed in both their windows, they have raised their wages. Our minimum wage here in California is a little higher than some states, but they've raised it for starting from $18 an hour up to $21.50 an hour. Now that's some serious money coming in your pocket if you can even do it part-time, 20-hour weeks instead of 40-hour weeks. Even if you can do it 10 hours a week, they want people to come in and do this. And of course, the pay goes by your experience. So they're looking at older people. Even Starbucks is looking at older people now. So this is really a great thing to do. Maybe you are a woman who stayed at home all the time during your career years when you wanted to be with your children and all, but you took care of all the family finances. You organized all their schedules. You did all the food shopping, all the cooking and everything else. So what about if you became a personal assistant to somebody and you said that you would help them with your bookkeeping, writing a check on the computer? There are people out there who need this kind of help, particularly people that are older than you starting your retirement or in the middle of your retirement. So you can do that. And you could also, if you're really sharp in the math department, you could go out and be certified as an accountant and get a job. By the way, maybe you could get a job to be one of those 8,700 or whatever it is, IRS agents, and you could carry a gun and you could go on your neighbor or your small business around the corner. So right there is an open market for you people that are really good at math. How about a recruiter for a business? One of the people, there are several, what do you call them, employment agencies that are posting on the internet these days and share your jobs. LinkedIn is one place that LinkedIn shares jobs that are available with your qualifications and things like that. But what if you became the recruiter? These people need people to recruit and look the first time at the applications and see if they can match them up. And then they pass them on to the senior people who will pass them on again to the person wanting to hire. So let's say you're Susie seamstress down the street, and you want to hire a second seamstress that knows exactly what you're doing to tailor men's suits because you want to add that to your business. So you go to one of these employment sites and just look up on the internet. This is why you need your phone or a laptop. Look up something that tailors. Who is hiring tailors? What is a tailor? It's Tailor, not Taylor. Okay, so you want an experienced tailor. A lot of tailors and seamstresses have flown by the wayside because a lot of your better stores like a Neiman Marcus do it in-house. So there is a need for this. You can go to Kmart or Walmart and buy a dress or a pair of pants that you're going to go wear to an interview and you can't fit it on. So you're going to look for a tailor or a seamstress to help you out, because I can pretty much guarantee you those places don't have people who help you with that. So you could be a recruiter. You could be, because you've got that math experience, you could be reviewing these applications for people who are experienced enough to be applying to work at an accounting firm. How about a sales rep? What have you purchased over the 60-some years of your life? Don't you think you've been in a lot of stores? And besides getting a retail job in one of these places, you could be a sales rep for some of the goods that they have in their stores. You could become a sales rep for a cosmetic line that's going into CVS or Rite Aid or any of the drugstores that want that. And wouldn't it be nice to have somebody that actually uses the products in your age group? Of course, we're all into anti-aging now. So you could become a sales rep. Give them your experience. Maybe your experience is fundraising for your kids' schools. Maybe you had to pick the prizes out. Maybe you had to select goods to sell there. You have more experience than you think if you've never worked. And if you just even want a side hustle, something to do in some way to meet people and put a little money in your pocket. Don't forget to pay taxes on it. Don't let people pay you under the table in cash. You think it's a good thing, but with all these new IRS people coming, they're going to wonder why you went out and bought those kicks, those sneakers that are so expensive at $300 or $500. So do not be paid cash, even if a restaurant or some little business wants to pay you. Don't do it. Do not get in trouble with the IRS in any way. That would be disaster. So these things are all places where you could go and make some money. But how about the gig economy? This is new language for people that are a little bit older. Gig economy. Gig economy is when you sort of work for yourself and you choose your own hours and how you're going to do it. So it kind of started with people driving cars. Maybe you wanted somebody to take you out to dinner because you wanted to have 3 glasses of wine instead of 2 glasses of wine. So you would call up somebody like Lyft or Uber, and you would hire these people, and they're big companies. So they're safe. They are supposed to be vetted, and you pay with credit cards. You don't pay cash, so you don't need to carry a lot of cash. And it's a smart way to go. A lot of baby boomers are using these modes of transportation now. They've sort of put some of the taxi companies out of business, but I think there's still a place for taxis, especially in places like New York, probably the district, Washington, D.C. Los Angeles has never been big on taxis or anything. So I would think Ubers and Lyft people are doing quite well there because we've never really had modes of transportation here in California. So I'm sure you could get a taxi, but I don't know where. So look at those. You can become a driver. Now, remember, when you're taking an Uber or Lyft to the airport, yes, you can do that too. It avoids parking your own car. It can be more economical than parking your own car. But remember, if you want to be an Uber driver or Lyft driver, you need to have a big enough car to do it. And you need to be able to help people with their heavy bags. So that's an important thing when you're looking for a new job and a new side hustle or gig. That's what you want to do. How about forming a band with some of your buddies, women or men? That would be really fun. And you could start out playing at somebody's birthday party. I mean, of our age, because we like to hear some of the older music. So you might want to try that. That would be really fun, I think. I wish I had a better voice. I'd look for some place to be able to go and do that. That would be fun. And who knows? You could start playing around in different restaurants on certain nights, the oldie but goodies nights, or the 60 music or 70 music, something like that. That would really be fun. And there's 2 more things that I want to share about that. Actually, there's 3. One, I got into podcasting when I was older, about 8 years ago, and I used it as a device to entertain myself, entertain friends, and my audience, and I interviewed celebrities and all sorts of interesting people, a lot of life coaches. I reviewed books, and I loved it. I also started it because I wanted to sell my anti-aging skin cream. So I was the sponsor of it at that time. So that podcasting has grown so much since that time. There's a ton of competition, but what it's done is open the doors to older people. Now I'm back on the air again because I see a need to help people through their retirement years and share different things as I've been doing. And that segues into my new website coming up. But before I say that, the other thing that you could occupy your time with is writing your history or just recording your history. How about if you do videos on your laptop to leave them as a legacy to your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren? Or how about if you talk to your siblings, if you have them, and share your different experiences that you thought about growing up together, and maybe you could do it together. Maybe you could form a club that is sharing things like that. But you could do podcasting, and you should be looking for sponsors or something like that if you need to make money, because it is not inexpensive. And if you go on your own to do podcasting, You may be talking to yourself, and who knows, I might be talking to myself, but I can now check on it through my podcast station, Talk4 Media, so I know where I am. But there is those two things that haven't been available. You could write your life story in a memoir, and you can self-publish on little places like Amazon does self-publishing, but there's a plethora of self-publishing companies now. Some are great, some are not so great. You have to do your homework whenever you're doing all this. Some of them will help you edit your book, design your cover, help you price it, all sorts of things. So that's something that maybe you always wanted to write poetry. I remember the days of poetry. And you might want to do that, bring back an interest in it. If you could see my bookcases behind me, you would see all the books I have on poetry, as well as other things, obviously, but I have several books on poetry. So you also could continue your work in nonprofits and fundraising groups, anything that helps other people. Maybe you are a really friendly person and a very up person, and you could go to the local home for retired veterans, retired people, nursing homes. You could go to orphanages. Yes, there are still orphanages. Most of them are run by churches. It would be like a Catholic charity who take in kids, fostering them and all into a certain age, because there's a shortage of foster parents and you have to be screened and all. But you could go help in some place like that. And then, of course, you could become a speaker with all of your experience and be a consultant or a speaker at different things. When we were in the natural health industry, we had to go to all these conventions and all. And there would always be a keynote speaker at the end of the convention for natural food products. And people like Tony Robbins, that's how they started out with their big businesses. They would come and be keynote speakers at places like that. So if you have something to share with people, there is a market for that. So that's what I wanted to say about retirement. But you have to have good health to do all that. So I've been concentrating on that. And my first couple of programs, when I decided to get more into helping people in retirement and aging. So today I want to share one thing, and then we'll get back to the other reasons for retiring and all. And your attitude is everything. But first, I want to tell you that in the last week or so, I try to stay in touch with my girlfriends all the time. And it gets hard, particularly during COVID, because we didn't have anything to say to each other except I love you. Because we weren't going out. We weren't doing museums or anything like that. So we weren't working. We were working from home. So we didn't have a lot to talk about. So we didn't talk on the phone. In the very beginning of it, we were all on the phone all the time, trying to stay connected. We even had some Zoom calls with people. We'd have a cocktail at 5 o'clock with our friends. But that all sort of fell out, and we started speaking to each other. And then, of course, I lost my son, and I couldn't speak to anybody, and people were so kind. But I will say that 2 people held me up, and of friends, and that got me through it. But one of them was telling me the other day she's having problems with her eyesight, and one eye has lost the vision in it, mostly to just see nothing but brightness and darkness. And she was with her doctor the other day, and he said, "What kind of glasses do you wear?" Because she is capable of driving and she's allowed to drive. She's passed the vision test and everything. So she's allowed to drive. And she said, well, I just, wear my designer lenses, and she has 20/20 vision out of the other eye. And he said, well, I want you to be aware of something. Those bags, airbags in cars, if God forbid you should get in an accident, those bags come up and hit you in the face, and people do get injured by them sometimes. But if you're still wearing glasses that are made specs, if we still wear spectacles made out of glass with our prescriptions in them, we stand a chance of losing one or two eyes because they hit you right there and they crack the lenses and could cut out your eye. Sounds horrible, doesn't it? Okay, well, they went to regular plastic glasses for impact sports and kids that had to wear glasses and all, and that was popular for a long time. They're coming out with new things all the time, and she was telling me about this, and I didn't really understand what she was saying, so I looked it up. I didn't know enough about it. It's polycarbonate lens, and it's a lot less expensive than it used to be to get glasses, and they're shatterproof. They have all sorts of benefits to them. They're used in sportswear glasses. If you're playing golf, if you're playing whatever, and you can't wear contacts, or you don't wear your contacts when you're playing sports, they're wonderful, okay? So they were originally used in headlights. They were used in helmets, like if you're playing football and you have a shield or something like that. So they were used in a lot of things, and now you can get prescriptions in them. They're lightweight, they're comfortable, and they have the advantage of having UV protection in them. That light UVA and UVB that comes into your eyes and your skin and everything's not good for you, could make you go blind if it's too bright. So they're built in this plastic. They just come with it. That's how they manufacture them and how they've discovered to use it. Sometimes they do cost a little more than plastic lenses, which people use. But in my opinion, it's really worth it. Now I'm going to tell you that you can get them with prescriptions in them, but not every prescription. Maybe you have astigmatism of some sort that the lens wouldn't be polycarbonate, would not be good for it. So they're not perfect, but they're a lot better than getting your eye scrunched out. And also, what I want to tell you is you can go to your ophthalmologist and optometrist, and you can have the lenses switched out to put the polycarbonate in. And you can also find, if you have your prescription or you don't need a prescription, you can go on one of the internet eye companies now, and you can even take an eye test. Now, I don't recommend doing that online if you have something severely wrong with your eyes. But you can go, I wear my reading glasses so I can talk to you after I read my notes, and I have reflections in them from the lights. So you can go on there. You can go on there and get some pretty decent glasses and all without spending a lot of money. And you can get the different magnetisms. If you'd like to buy those readers in the grocery store or the drugstore, you can do that. So what I want you to do is check into that, because polycarbonate lenses will be more protective than the other kinds of lenses. And you can't scratch them. You can't shatter them. But you should always take them and put them in a case as you're going about your business. Putting them in your purse without a case or in your pocket without a case is not good for anybody's glasses. So I'm going to go back to our midlife crisis for just a minute and tell you just a couple more things I thought of for you to do if you want to start getting yourself healthy. You definitely need to be walking. You should walk for at least 30 minutes a day, and you should walk 10,000 steps. And you can get all sorts of things. And maybe I said this last week, you can get watches, you can get little tick things that strap on you and will count everything. You can even get a ring now, not mine, but you can get a ring that measures your blood pressure, your heartbeat, how far you've walked, and all of that. So do some of that and take your supplements. Watch your health. Don't skip appointments. They're finding all sorts of breast cancer in women who didn't have mammograms for the 2 years we were locked up. So make your doctor's appointments and go keep up with those. That is about all I have to say about that, except I want you to tune in because I will be starting my new website where I'll have insightful things about aging and about retirement and about being engaged and being engaging. And the title of it will be Golden Years, Golden Fears. And I'll let you know when it's up and running, and we'll have some fun with it. We're also looking at different things to enhance your life, like maybe you're all girls, you don't have any guys around anymore, and you'd still like to travel. So I'm working with somebody I know very well where we can put together some different things like cruises and retreats in different parts of the country and all sorts of things. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us on that when it's up and working. In the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye early today, a few minutes early, because apparently my husband is still having trouble gaining access to our show. And I need to talk to my wonderful engineer, Juan, to see if we can figure out why he personally can't get on it in our house. And I hope that you've been able to hear me on all of yours. Juan is hearing me perfectly fine. So thank you again for joining us. I certainly appreciate it. I hope I'm giving you some valuable information. And remember this: cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you.